Tyler Henry, the Hollywood medium. Is he truly tapping into the spiritual realm, or is he using clever tricks and techniques to deceive his celebrity clients and audiences? Yes, his readings are too good to be true. You are not imagining things. So today, let's step into the world of celebrity psychic readings, examine all the evidence at hand, and look at expert opinions to get to the bottom of Tyler Henry. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Florio. Tyler, he got lucky. He's another performer in the psychic industry, but he has a bit of a shtick of a boy next door, so his image really sold well. And the psychic industry has been growing a lot ever since the rise of social media, so he stepped in at the right time. He's the right age, the right look, and he's got, a good sort of sellable image, right? And this is why he's become so popular so quickly when he showed up on the scene. The psychic industry, however, though, it has been booming quite a lot since the rise of social media. In the 2000s, it's just gotten really out of control big.
The psychic industry has grown by 52% since 2005, becoming a $2 billion business that employs 90,000 Americans.
And that is a clip from Vice News from about 5 years ago. Since then, however, Statista.com has reported at almost $2.4 billion industry in 2023. It did take a bit of a hit in 2020 because of COVID, but it's bounced back exponentially. It's still making tons of money. There's mediums in every corner, and it's a time where people have to be careful now. You've got to watch your back. As always, though, with my videos, create your own opinions on these things. You all know how I feel about these mediums, especially these ones that seek fame like this. I'm just giving out all the information I find out about these folks, as I personally have an issue with the people who make money on the pain of others. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how Tyler gets all the details in this readings, plus more. Also, at the end of this video, I brought upon a special guest as well, Susan Gerbic from the Skeptical Inquirer. Susan has written a plethora of articles on Henry, as well as made multiple breakdowns of his readings on her YouTube channel, which of course I'll link all of her stuff below too. Susan actually has done a lot of different operations as well against fake psychics, so she's got a pretty good background and it should be fun, so hang on to the end for that. But first, as with all my videos, we work through things chronologically, so let's begin with Tyler's biography and how he got to where he is now. I almost forgot, for my regular viewers, today's psychic video secret question is, if you could be any animal, what would it be? Comment below to let me know that you're watching the video. Tyler's background. Tyler Henry Colwyn, known as the Hollywood Medium, was born on January 13, 1996 in a small town called Hanford, California. Apologies if I get any pronunciations incorrect. I'm looking it up and doing my best. Tyler reiterates that his first sign of psychic abilities was when he was 10 years old. He says, and I quote, "It was like a knowing, a feeling that wasn't mine but felt very real. I didn't fully understand it at first, but I knew I had to explore it." While attending Sierra Pacific High School, Tyler's gift continued to develop. He was not only a gifted medium, but he was also gifted in intelligence. Graduating high school at just 16 years old and starting post-secondary education to one day become a hospice nurse. While he was studying for nursing, he made money to pay bills by doing readings on the side. Pretty quickly, Tyler found himself at a precipice where he had to decide between sticking with school and dropping the medium work, or quitting school and working full-time as a medium. He chose the latter. Tyler's career takes off. At just 19 years old, Tyler moved to Los Angeles, where his unique gift quickly garnered attention. Word spread about his uncanny ability to deliver precise and meaningful messages from those who have moved on to the other side. But his first big break was his friendship with Kara Kardashian, cousin of Kim Kardashian. He ended up showing up at their house to give readings, which at the time they were filming their reality show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I have been really eager to meet with Tyler, who is a medium. He's still young. He's 19, I think. These are my sisters.
Oh my gosh, great to meet you.
Hi.
Great to meet
Nice
you.
to meet
I actually
you.
know your cousin, Kara.
Did you always know that you had, like, a gift?
When I was 10 years old, my grandmother was ill with terminal cancer, and as she was getting really ill, I woke up one night and knew she was going to pass. And we got the call 2 minutes later that my grandmother had passed.
Oh my God, wow.
And Also interesting to note, this house has something in it.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's kind of an odd feeling. Right when I walked in, it was like there was a feeling like there was something here. This is one of those weird things that's kind of coming through. I'm referencing, am I smelling tie? I don't know what this would be. You know, ties like people wear? I'm pulling it out, but I'm holding it to my face.
What if it's Dad? My dad had hundreds of ties, and I always smell his stuff.
Yeah.
I just realized in this episode that he's not drawing in his notebook. After his appearance, he essentially had a vouch by the Kardashians, and that's when his Hollywood career took off. I did try to look into more about who his first agent was and more about like working with Kara, but I couldn't find exact direct details. We do know that after his first appearance is when he got a TV deal for his show Hollywood Medium. I do feel like there's more to this part of the story and more to why he moved to Hollywood specifically. This must have been his plan to try to make it big in Hollywood, to become famous and a famous medium to the stars, or at least get a TV show or something. I would have to assume that's why he would move to Hollywood. It's very expensive to live there and he came from a small town, so I don't know. I think that was his goal. Anyway, his mom, Teresa Colwyn, is officially his manager, but he obviously has a whole team of people behind him. Right around the time when he was 19 is when he had to have brain surgery for a cyst that had become worse. It was something that he was born with, and he ended up developing water on the brain, and they had to operate. So he's unable to drive. The story of the brain surgery, his relationship with his mom, and her driving him around is something that the fans just eat up like crazy. Another interesting bit of lore for Henry, for those who watch all of his stuff might know it, but the main focus of his Netflix show After Death, his grandmother on his mother's side, Stella Mary Goudry Nestle, took the life of 2 people and is in jail for it. And we learned that in the show that his mom was actually taken from someone. So his grandmother isn't even really his grandmother. His grandmother kidnapped his mom when she was young and made her one of her kids. These stories they put at the focus of his first 2 shows, and fans just like eat this stuff up. His story is so interesting that people love it, especially the Netflix show. People love true crime, and I would absolutely love if a true crime YouTuber would do a deep dive of that case. I try to look into it a little bit more, but it's hard to find exact info on it. It's a bit of a side tangent too, and I'll leave it in the video here, but I didn't want this video to turn into just a true crime episode as well. So, but in the end, I mean, his grandmother wasn't a good person. She got the kids to lie for her. She used the kids in different grifting things that she had going. So like, that's the world that his mom grew up in, and now she's found like this new family. But I do find that interesting that that's the world that she came from. Beyond television, Tyler has also written best-selling books, Between Two Worlds and Hereafter. His latest show, Live from the Other Side, is on Netflix. Yes, Netflix did give him 2 shows. But Tyler's main shtick is reading famous people, which he insists he has never heard of before. But has he? I mean, they're all famous. Like, I don't know. It's a little bit silly that people believe this. But let's get into that, as it really is the cornerstone of his readings, is how accurate his readings are for people that he's never heard of before, but the rest of the world has. So, debunking. All right, as we get into the debunking, I'm just going to remind you guys, yes, y'all loved my first video on Sylvia Browne. Obviously, there's a lot of information on Sylvia. There's a lot of bad things she did. She's probably the worst of them all, and she created a blueprint of what not to do. So every psychic who came after her, like, didn't do the things that got her into trouble. So we're not going to see like big sensationalized stuff as we did with Sylvia, and I know that disappoints some of you, but it's just the way it's going to be. And I'm going to keep referring back to techniques. And if you want to understand all the techniques that fake psychics use, go check out my John Edward video as well. But we are going to get into stuff. We're going to break down these readings, because at this point now, what we're looking at is trying to break it down and trying to show where they're getting these answers from. And the reason that we do these videos, just a reminder, is they take advantage of people who are grieving or who are in like a crisis situation, and people shouldn't be giving their money to these people. They should be, you know, going out and working on themselves. Like, even a therapist, you give your money to a therapist. And I know some people have strong opinions about this sort of thing, but my opinion is when you're in crisis like that, your mind, you're not thinking straight. So no, people aren't dumb for this. And no, it's not okay what they're doing. They're not really giving people closure. And this is something that people don't truly understand. So when I do more psychic breakdowns with you guys, it's going to be stuff like this. We've already gone through the worst of them, which was Sylvia. And then we've gone through the techniques. And now we're going to be looking at specific psychics. And I'm just really going to be tearing down their readings and taking a look at their readings in more detail. I just want to get that out of the way. Now let's get back into Tyler. All right, so Tyler definitely uses a combination of hot and cold reading techniques, and he dabbles in some other techniques as well. Again, you can take a look at the rundown of all the techniques in my John Edward video, which I will link as well. But for simplicity purpose, I'll just quickly explain what hot and cold reading is, just, so you don't have to rewatch that again, or, people who haven't watched it yet. Hot reading is doing your research, going into a reading, already knowing something about somebody because you Googled them or you stalked their socials, and then acting like you've never heard of them or met them before. The research guess becomes a guaranteed hit that will impress the sitter, and the sitter, it's terminology that means the one getting the reading done on them. And they'll be so impressed by this guess of how accurate it is. And it's really just something that was pre-researched ahead of time. Cold reading is when a medium puts out names, ideas, guesses that are simple, usually a yes/no question, and then they trick the sitter into divulging more to push the reading further. Also, the medium will read body language cues and so forth as well. And a warm reading can kind of be a combination of like building upon that, knowing a little bit of tidbit of something and then using cold reading to fill it out. So before we begin, Tyler's other shtick is he scribbles in a notebook to tune into the other side while he does his readings, right? For those of you that are new to him, if you're wondering what he's writing, it's literally just scribbles. But it is a bit of flair that sells his image, so Hollywood eats it up. You see, he's really crafted this perfect image of something that sells real well to the audiences. Something new, a medium that they haven't really seen before. Editing. The biggest thing everyone who watches these shows forgets is editing is key. These shows are heavily edited. People just get so caught up in it, and the production quality is so good, and the showmanship distracts from the cuts and the edits. Everyone who watches this stuff, you need to keep an eye out for editing. For instance, one scene he'll have like 2 lines scribbled out, and then the next cut is the whole page is filled with pen. All right, I'm going to show you an example. Just notice how he said that he just took out his notebook and he just started the reading, and you see there's scribbles at first and then they cut and he's saying, I don't know you and I don't know what you do for a living, yet the whole page is filled out, which means that they've been sitting there for a while and that page stays that filled out like during this whole reading. I'm not going to have time to include this whole reading in this video, so it'll go into my extras video, which will be coming out later.
As far as the reading goes today, we can focus on lots.
What's in your book?
I'll actually show you. It's a good question. So,
is that the file on me?
When I whipped out my notepad, she said, that's the file you have on me, jokingly, which was an immediate, obvious sign that she was cynical. I don't know what you do for a living. I just don't watch much TV or anything, and you may not even be in TV.
So this little flair parlor trick that he has, it actually gives away how bad the cuts are and how much editing is going into the reading. It's important to remember that they tape these things over hours and they condense it down into like small 5-10 minute readings. Only the best guesses and the best reactions from the sitter are going to make it into the final cut. And the sitter doesn't necessarily remember all the bad either. I am currently predicting that angry comments are being written below saying, hey, why doesn't said famous person speak up afterwards if it's all fake then? Well, there's reasons why these people, see, he's picked it well, or, the producers and everyone have picked it well. Most of the people who he reads are kind of like B-list or lower. They want the screen time. Plus, they're not going to want to ruffle the feathers of executives and producers that could give them work in the future. So they get paid for an appearance and they just keep their mouth shut, act like it's all amazing. Some of them do get tricked by it all. And, of course, there's going to be some that honestly don't remember all the bad, guesses. But a lot of them, they're not going to say anything bad. They don't want to ruffle feathers. A perfect example of this is the Corey Feldman reading. In this reading, Tyler tries to act out something Corey Haim apparently did right before he died. But this information, Tyler got it from Feldman's book, very obviously. And the statement in his book turns out to be false because Haim's mother came forward to tell everyone the truth. So right there, we catch Tyler Henry in a big lie because Feldman was caught in a big lie. Okay, so what's the lie? Well, Judy, Corey Haim's mother, came forward and she says that Feldman is misremembering stuff. He says that she, Judy, told me that Corey, wasn't feeling well, that he was going to go get a drink of water and lay back down, and that's when he passed. That's what Feldman says in his book. But Judy's come forward and said, I never told him about a glass of water. You know why? Because that's not the way it happened. So why would he say that? There were lots of little things he doesn't know about what he's talking about that are in this book. I'm going to show you a clip from Justin David's video as he really wraps up this whole Feldman incident quite well.
Then with Feldman, Tyler begins his journey to eventually bring up Corey Haim. He always leads the reading to the most obvious person that is passed. Of course, with a guy like Feldog, the most recognizable person to bring into the fold is the person he was most famously associated with. Of course, he knows through research that Haim died of pneumonia, so he starts leading.
There's a reference to getting up to get a glass. I have a glass in my hand, and I'm thirsty.
He keeps going and going and going about trauma and being taken advantage of.
For being an adult, there's a childlike quality in their life and how they were. And multiple instances of kind of what it feels like to some extent. But I don't know why he was stuck in this.
Well, then I know who you're talking about.
He keeps leading and leading and leading until he finally gets what he came for when Corey says,
You're talking about Corey Haim.
Corey.
You're talking about Corey Haim.
Corey Haim. Corey Haim.
Tyler is actually a really gifted improv actor.
Okay. You don't know, really?
Yeah. Coming up with dialogue on the spot that slowly leaks bits of the person's life like breadcrumbs until his guests finally give in and boom, we get the sound cue and we're off to the races. The story about getting up for a glass of water, which Tyler is referencing in this episode, is in Corey's very public autobiography, Choreography. A story that has actually been refuted by Haim's mother, giving even less credibility to Tyler's visions that are supposedly coming directly from Haim himself. With an egomaniac like Feldman, this show is just another attempt for Feldman to stay relevant and exploit the person against their will for another moment in the spotlight.
Let's get into analyzing some of his readings. Tyler's readings analyzed. Tyler is probably the only psychic I've seen who relies so much on hot reading. This guy does uber research and uses his acting skills to pretend like he's never heard of said famous person that he's reading and never did any research into him. Oh, heavens no, I would never research someone. I've never even heard of him before. I grew up not watching TV or movies or listening to music or taking in any media. That's what he says to people. His team will say that they don't tell him the names. There's no way that he would know. We're not lying. I personally think his mother does a lot of the recon. There's stuff that he guesses in these readings that almost always was something the famous person just posted on social media a few months before they sat down with Tyler. And I'll walk you through some examples to show you. All right, our first example is from Susan Gerbic from her YouTube channel, Psychics Explained. And it goes in to show you an example of hot reading from Tyler Henry.
I'm seeing a piano bench, and I'm sitting on the bench, and this woman is kind of putting sentimental or some form of significant value kind of around this. Do you know of anyone on your mom's side who played piano who would kind of fit that bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would this be your maternal grandmother?
Yes.
Cool.
Isadora was her name, and we called her Izzy. Very strong personality.
What do you think I'm going to show you now? Put your psychic powers up. There is a picture of a woman sitting on a piano bench with a little boy, and there's a piano, and it looks old. The photograph is fairly old. So where do we find this photo? Well, a friend of our channel sent this to me. And if you do have anything you'd like to send me, please do so. You can reach out to me on social media on Facebook, send me a Facebook Messenger request, or email me at susangerbic@gmail.com. So where is this picture from? That's right. It's from the Alan Thicke official Facebook page. This photo has to have been on the Facebook page before the reading that Tyler Henry and Alan Thicke had done. This is the date. Make note of that. June 15th, 2016. So when did Tyler sit down and record this recording with the sitting with Alan Thicke? August 31st, 2016. Tyler read Alan Thicke. So this photograph would have been probably right up there at the top of the Facebook photos.
All right. And this clip is an example of Tyler using social media for his hot reading, his pre-research on somebody. And this is from Susan Gerbic from Psychics Explained. Again, I will have all of her stuff linked below in the video as well. Tyler Henry, I found that he uses social media more than anything else, but let's get into an example where I've done a little bit of legwork myself as well. All right, now this one is season 1, episode 1 of his latest show that he has up on Netflix, which is Live from the Other Side with Tyler Henry.
If I go over here really quickly, does anybody know of any situations in a family where a female would have dealt with an ovarian, uterine, or like cervical or breast related problem, but kind of at an earlier age than what we would expect as like elderly? This could have even been someone who like survived this female cancer scare, but I have to highlight it as a situation within family. Do you understand that?
Yeah, my mom had breast cancer.
Gotcha.
She's in remission.
Congratulations. They're putting a blessing around that. And it's the only way to describe it, but the sense of across generations, survival, strength. And I needed to know there's a feeling of that one symbol meaning a whole lot.
Tyler Henry uses social media more than anything. And the first time I really noticed it was a reading, if I can find it, I'll add it as well, where he did a reading on somebody and they talked about spreading the ashes and the ashes like blew back in their face and they were laughing about it. But it was posted on their social media. So now that's what I've done with a lot of Tyler's readings. If he got something really specific, I check social media. If it's something a little middle ground specificity, sorry, if I say that word wrong, then it'll usually be something that he Googled, that he found like on the first page of Google or in Google Images as well. He looks in there. That person is Nina Parker. And this show was released in 2024. So the first image was from July of 2023, which is where I think that he probably found it. However, the second image, I actually ended up finding this by Google Images, which I did notice this about Tyler Henry. If I take the name of whoever he's reading and then, you know, I search for someone, either an illness or someone who has died in their life, and if I put those two things together in Google Images, I tend to actually get hits on the stuff that he puts into his episode. So I think he uses social media first, Google Images next, and then just plain Google last. And he does this in an attempt to obscure where he got his information from. And this one showed up, it's a bit older, but this one showed up and it actually explained her mother's fight with breast cancer as well. And then again in the July, because I ended up finding, I thought, well, I'd like to find something a little bit sooner because I've noticed usually he pulls things from social media a few months before he sits down with somebody. And in this one, she actually talks about going for her first mammogram because of her mother's breast cancer. You know, when it runs in the family, you have to get tested early. So it looks like she actually posts about breast cancer, very often on her social media. Cancer awareness is great. That's where he pulled it from. She's not a nobody to him. If you go and watch the season 1, episode 1 of that new show of his, when he comes in, they explain, oh, he's never met them before, blah, 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 all this other stuff, right? But his mom was in the audience before he even got onto stage. I honestly think that his mother does recon work and fills him in on this stuff. I think she plays a role in helping feed this information. Okay, that's a couple examples of how he uses social media and Google Images to read people ahead of time to do his hot reading research. Okay, the next clip that I want to go over with you guys, this is where Tyler Henry sits down with Boy George. I'm not sure if I can show the entire thing because, you know, YouTube may end up, it might have a copyright thing. We'll see what happens. I will link it though, regardless. You should watch it. It's only about 9 minutes, but essentially Boy George does what people should do when they are sat down with a medium is he doesn't give any answers. Like he doesn't give him anything to feed off of. He just wants Tyler to read. He doesn't want to give any feedback on the reading. And Tyler starts to really struggle with this, and somebody has to step in and tell Boy George to stop, you know, dono-walling him so that he can actually complete the reading. And it really kind of seems like Boy George's arm kind of feels like he was strong-armed into doing what they wanted and then to talk nicely about him at the end of the reading. I honestly think Boy George knew what was up, but didn't want to ruffle any feathers on this one. This is an example of someone famous that he did a reading for that didn't speak up after because it wasn't worth the hassle of ruffling the feathers of the producers and execs involved in these shows.
Tyler.
Hello, how are
Hi.
you?
I'm George.
Oh,
Nice
great to meet you.
I'm Boy George. I'm a singer. I heard about Tyler through my manager, who was very into whole clairvoyant kind of medium type of thing. Do you know who I am?
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you don't know too much about me.
Okay, let me also just add, when Tyler walks in and he's saying that he has no idea who Boy George is, this is Tyler's, like, that's his go-to line 90% of the time.
Scribbling, we'll see what comes through. We'll see what makes sense. We'll see what doesn't. Yeah, I just have a couple people popping in.
I'm a bit uncomfortable with talking with people that have passed. You know, I feel it's a bit weird.
For sure, younger male energy that passed and died too soon. And that was kind of coming through on the way here.
No.
He's been a bit reserved.
Okay, all right. There's a reference to alcoholism and a reference to heroin addiction. Do you know of anybody?
Oh, a lot of people.
Who would have dealt with both, but with both, though, at the same time?
A lot of people. It's quite hard for me to kind of pinpoint that on any one particular person.
He must be nervous, this kid.
Also, let me just add in here, you're talking to a singer, a rock star, and you say, was there anyone in your life with drug or alcohol problems? The whole music industry, like, it's such a generalized question. He's cold reading right there.
He's getting no help from George.
The specific thing here is that there was a performance done after the individual died. That was in their memory.
But he did write wonderful words for him at the funeral.
So if someone did a show and devoted something to him, that might be the gist, but the specific focus is electric guitar.
He's so obviously Steve Strange. Yeah, he doesn't want to give him too much. Then I don't...
So does that fit any, to your knowledge, for you personally?
It's quite vague. It's quite vague.
As a medium, I need the validation. It's such an essential part of the process. It makes it a little tough when I do a reading and someone isn't really willing to validate or willing to really figure out where something could fit.
Okay, so
right there, like, this is his first show, and right there he just, like, tells on himself right there, explaining why he's stumbling and why he can't complete a reading unless the person that's sitting with him validates things and gives him something to work with. And that tells you right there that he is performing parlor tricks. And that should be enough for most people, especially people who think critically. Yet we're still looking at, what, a $2.3 billion industry of people who don't understand this.
Okay. Is that a yes or a no, though?
Yeah, no, nothing really springs to mind.
This kid's brilliant and he's not letting him in. Do you understand?
Well, I'm tricky. I'm a tricky customer. I'm sure there are other people that are much more open to the idea of speaking to people on the other side, but I'm not necessarily one of them.
Well, let's assess. I can't shake that other energy.
When a piece of information comes through that isn't validated, the image stays the same, and I'm not able to continue with the reading until the person can understand, or I can understand, where it fits.
And right there, that tells you that was the piece of hot reading that he went in with. That was going to be his big wow moment, his big aha that he was going to present to George in order to get George to then divulge more, and then he was going to do a further reading from there. So now he's stuck because that was supposed to be his big aha thing. Right here, this whole reading, Boy George, I'm glad that they actually ended up releasing this thing because it shows you right here all the issues with Tyler. And Boy George, he clocked him right from the beginning.
And I have to know that I'm at least going in a certain direction. And if we're not, I'll try to kind of figure out where it fits.
We'll have a word with him. We're just watching it inside. So interested watching it because I don't know if you're, like, aware that he's getting things ridiculously accurate, and I think he really needs to feel the energy to be able to follow up on that. So,
but you can't tell me what to do.
No, but
you know this was going to happen.
I'm in absolute, complete shock with how that went. Like, I had no idea it was going to go that way.
I've said my bit. That was all.
I 100% believe that Tyler doesn't fully understand the industry yet at this point. This was his first show. He was very young. And yeah, he probably was in shock, not expecting George's manager to be walking in. George's manager, who manages him and knows him well enough, can talk sort of in vague things like this. And he's pretty much telling him, like, you need to let this kid do his thing, or we're going to run into issues or promises broken or whatever. Producers are going to be upset. Like, he's pretty much telling George right there. Like, George even clocked his own manager saying, are you telling me what to do? And George's manager will be like, no, I'm not. But like, George knows, oh, if he walked in, then I guess I'm going to get into, trouble with this after. Like, we just are witnessing this whole thing happening. And yeah, I believe that Tyler probably was surprised by this because he doesn't fully understand what just happened there. But I don't know. I also don't think he's as naive as he tries to sell himself to be. I don't think he's as boy next door, innocent little kid as he tries to sell his image either.
Some experience in this.
Sure.
You do, the more you get, the more you give. That's
Yeah,
all.
but
That's the point.
I'm not you.
Clearly.
Unfortunately for me, I'm not you.
Love you.
Well, yeah,
that was helpful.
And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And that's kind of the thing, is regardless of where that goes. Unfortunately, I work with images. I wish I could have it in the ear, but not the case. I would say with the energy that came through that acknowledged, passing at a young age and referencing to music connection, he showed me electric guitar. There's lots of things there.
Yeah.
I can't quite pinpoint the connection for you personally.
I mean, I have a friend that I'm doing I'm actually involved in a benefit for a friend of mine on the 22nd of November this year, so that could be a connection,
Sure. Did this person deal with 2 addictions?
Oh, more than 2, I think.
Now that Boy George's manager has come and talked to him, now he is giving Tyler stuff to work with.
2 primary, and alcohol.
Yeah, probably both of those, so yeah.
This guy's good.
Seriously? This guy's good? After that guess? After what just happened?
Someone else is coming through? Do you know who had the breast cancer in family?
My grandmother.
Okay. Because the emphasis here is I'm going on mom's side of the family. Would that have been on mom's side?
Yeah.
Because when she comes through, she's just an interesting kind of duality of being very charming, very nice, and very straightforward, and very, didn't mince words.
Very scary.
That's describe.
Very scary, very powerful. My grandmother was a tough cookie.
Sure. What's interesting is that she has a closer relationship to you on the other side than she did in life.
That's probably true. I was quite an eccentric kid, and I think she tried to kind of get it out of me, but more because she was frightened that people were going to hurt me.
Right.
My grandmother never really got to see me do well. Mm-hmm. She didn't know me in my sort of successful life. Well, there's a lot of things I'm glad she didn't see, but I think that, my grandmother would have been very proud of the things that I've done.
When she comes through, she views you as a very independent person. She views herself as a very independent person. She feels like that's something you have in common. When she comes through, she sees a kindredness with you. She sees a connection with you.
My life is in a really good place, and I think that, she would probably be saying, finally, thank God. I like the idea of my grandmother being proud of me. We were very, very much kindred spirits.
Any other questions?
I mean, I really feel like, in a way, the only people that I would really want to talk to would be my father. Unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance to kind of, sort of resolve stuff with him.
Well, I think from a reading perspective, he's not coming through. He's not coming through strongly. I don't feel like I need to tell you anything about him.
No.
The beauty of it is, in a really interesting way, I feel like everything you need to know, you know.
So Tyler Henry, he didn't come in prepared and ready to give him a reading from his father. But if you do a quick Google search on Boy George and father, there's a lot of controversial topics and subjects in there. And I think that this was a calculated risk that Tyler decided to make it so that his voice wasn't coming through because he didn't want to incorrectly read on anything of this nature. This just furthers my whole thought on he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think sometimes, you can have a kind of, difficult relationship with a parent. Certainly with my father, he, left my mother for another woman and did all these terrible things that I didn't approve of. There was a long time in my life where, I couldn't talk about him in a nice way, because I don't think he was really at peace in his life. So the idea that he's in peace now would be perfect.
I don't doubt that he's around.
Thank you. I think he does have a real gift, and I'd like to see him again. It's nice to go into something with a bit of cynicism and come out with a bit of maybe an altered point of view.
All right.
Tyler, thank you very much.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
show you out.
Okay, I found this deleted scene of something that happened like at the end when Tyler was leaving. I just want you to pay attention to all of the Hollywood execs speak in there. You see Boy George's manager is like trying to utilize this to also resurrect Boy George. Like he's trying to get Boy George back at the top again. And then he's also talking about how he could help Tyler. And he's kind of like throwing in some jokes, but they're kind of actually serious statements. It's like little exec talk going on, you know? It's subtle, but just pay attention to what they're saying through all the laughing and the jokes that aren't really jokes.
Definitely know who you are.
You,
Boy
really?
George. Wow, what a surprise. Hey,
How are you?
How are you, Charlie? Lovely to meet you.
Where are you
Actually, I'm
from?
gonna give you a-
Where are you from? Somewhere nice like Chelsea.
Oh, no, darling.
Where are you from?
I did actually live in Fulham for a little bit, but I'm
Okay.
from Hertfordshire.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, Berkhamsted.
I live in London. I live in Hampstead.
Oh, so you're just visiting?
I'm visiting. Yeah, my manager lives here. Here he comes now.
Oh,
Hello.
wow.
Hello.
Hey, Charlie, I'm great, thanks.
Hi,
How are
Charlie.
you?
Nice
Lovely
to
to
meet
meet
you.
you. Well, quite a London gathering.
Yeah.
Going to be a big stylish boy.
Absolutely.
Didn't,
You're not a
didn't
manager.
you pick up on the fact that I'm going to be your manager?
I sense my sources there.
What did you think? What did you think at the start?
He loves
Was
it. He's
I-
really into this stuff.
I'm
though.
very
Yes.
into it. I think that people always want to know that answer. Is there a meaning to life? Is there something afterwards? Is there anything after?
And how was the reading?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah? How's your career looking?
Good, that's
Busy.
good.
Even
yeah.
better.
Fucking busy.
It's okay.
Okay, watch what happens next and listen to it. Boy George kind of seems annoyed. He wants his manager to stop talking. Also notice that when they go to leave, Boy George like doesn't really even give Tyler any eye contact. He gives eye contact to the woman that's with Tyler instead. He just seems annoyed.
I can see what do they call it? Resilient.
Resurrection.
No,
Whatever the word is. Whatever the word is, I'm happy. Well, listen, guys, have an amazing time.
You
Lovely
too.
to meet
Lovely
you.
to meet you too.
See you, fellow Brett. Goodbye.
This might seem a little bit silly and over the top, but just bear with me. Watch George's eyes, his eye contact. Looking away from Tyler, he's looking annoyed at this point. He wants to go. He wants this to be done. He looks at her, says goodbye to her. You know, proper English, being nice to fellow Englishman woman, right? Then he looks at the camera, realizes, oh, the cameras are still running, so I better look back at Tyler and say goodbye to him. And then it cuts. I think he was annoyed with Tyler, but let me know what you think. So yeah, I mean, this is just a perfect example of everything that Tyler does. He goes in with something that he's pre-researched, waits for it to hit, then gets him to divulge more, then he builds upon that. Boy George, I think that he would have left Tyler stumped if his manager didn't come in there and pretty much like tell him to just cut it out and give in to the whole thing. Okay, now one more clip from Justin David. This is a reading that Tyler is doing with David and Rosanna Arquette. Also, Justin finds proof of Tyler using social media again for his pre-research going into these readings.
Proof that TH is the biggest buller, and it took a bit of digging to get to the bottom of it. A little bit of investigative journalism, if you will, which in today's world is just a few peeks at David's Instagram. Now, in my opinion, this first trick is a little bit of a cheat. He needs to gain their trust a little bit. Tyler needs David and Rosanna to fully believe that he's the real deal by giving them something concrete, something undeniable. He starts furiously doodling in his notebook and starts repeating the word elephant, 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 elephant. All I can hear is elephant.
That's one. Elephant, elephant, elephant. Elephant, 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 elephant. Literally, it's like elephant, 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 elephant. Like I literally cannot make a change. Why? What just happened? I just finished doing a film with an elephant.
He says it over and over and over again until they bite. It's then revealed, to his shock, that David has just finished filming a movie about an elephant. The movie is called Saving Flora. So how could Tyler possibly have known about this Operation Dumbo Drop? Well, it's actually pretty simple. I started out by Googling when the original air date of this episode of Hollywood Medium was. It originally aired on March 21st, 2018. I then Googled David Arquette elephant movie and I found Saving Flora. And it was released in America in October of 2018. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. The movie came out after the episode. So then I figured movies take a long time between filming and release. Surely he filmed this or was filming this around the time of this episode. I then went hundreds of posts back in David's Instagram to 2018 looking for pictures on the set of this elephant movie, seeing if we could bring these ends together. No luck. I then thought, well, movies take a long time to film, often months at a time, even years. Let's go back a little further and look for this evidence in 2017, months before the episode. And I found it. Plain as day, and as expected, Tyler Henry found his hook with this picture of David Arquette with his elephant pal on the set of Saving Flora, posted August of 2017. Having this knowledge, he cooled their skepticism by disarming them with this bit of personal knowledge that makes them ask, how did he do that?
All right. This guy's pretty funny. Yeah, so this is just an example. That is also what I had to do as well, because the thing is, yeah, the episode aired in 2018, but they probably filmed it like, 6 months or a year beforehand, right? So he looked at his Instagram the year before, so that's probably around the time that they were filming the Hollywood Medium, and that's around the time that they got the reading done. And that's what I found as well. If you kind of go back and you take into account filming times and how long till something's released and all the other stuff, it lines up quite nicely that, he was actually finding all this stuff in social media. Now, Susan, the first clip I showed you, was a perfect example of her. She actually had the date of when they sat down. They actually said the date of when they sat down for that reading. So she had the dates exactly. And I found it's about a few months. He tends to go back a few months, long enough so the person forgot that they posted it to social media, but not so long to spend too much time delving deep into their social media and other Googling stuff. He tends to find stories that are a little bit older. Nothing too soon, just a few months, maybe 6 months at most, and that's what he'll present at his reading. Tyler Henry, the actor. All right, let me just touch a little bit as well on his acting. Tyler Henry is an actor, and this is what people don't realize. He's a very good improv actor, and he definitely is crafting an image and almost like a script every time that he tells his story. He does these horribly awkward fake laughs when he's feeling really anxious about doing the cold reading part of stuff. And every time that he tells something or retells something or explains things about him, it's always the exact same statement. It's very scripted. It's very practiced. In every interview, it's the same thing. As well, just his awkward smiling and stuff too. It's he's really good at improv acting in some areas, but he does admit he has anxiety, and you can see it popping through with some of his awkward smiling and laughing when he's getting nervous that he maybe didn't get the right cold statements in, or that he's not getting enough hits. And then as he gets more comfortable, then he starts to loosen up, and the improv acting kicks in really well too. So you can just kind of see it when you're watching a reading with him. And I know not everyone necessarily can recognize these things. I think that maybe I recognize them because I am neurodivergent. As well, I grew up being told and trained that I'm a psychic, but I think I was just learning how to see all these little body movements and reactions and read people. I can just watch people and figure stuff out. And I know not everyone can do that. So I guess it's hard to kind of just explain it to the people that don't see these things. And that's where I'm walking you through some of his readings to hope that you kind of understand what I'm seeing and to try to point it out to you. But in the end, yes, he does suffer from anxiety. I have anxiety. I feel for him. I know. And he talks about it a lot. Personally, I think, it does explain away the sweating and the weird smiling and the laughter. And you can say that's just anxiety. But if you're going in and ripping off people and opening their wounds on grieving people, maybe that's what this sweating and anxiety actually is. It shows us that he still has a little bit of empathy left in him, even though he made this bold claim on a Vice interview.
If you were full of it, you'd be a pretty bad person, wouldn't you?
I would.
You'd be exploiting people's grief for cash or for celebrity.
Exactly. I would say it this way. When you know what you are, you don't worry about what anyone else says. I can go to bed at night, resting my head on that pillow, knowing that I've helped these people, that I've made these connections, and that I've done so authentically.
All right, so I'm sure the next angry comment I'm going to see below is, wait, they brain scanned Tyler and it proved that he was a psychic. Yeah, about that brain scan. Let's talk about that. Medical misinformation. Okay, now I could obviously go over clip and clip and clip, episode and episode. He's done a bunch of shows, he's done a bunch of readings, but let's not be here for 8 hours. Yeah? The thing I'm going to show you is the most concerning. This is a problem. When mediums and psychics start offering medical advice, it is unsafe what he's doing. He clearly does not care about the people that he's reading. And this show, for the doctors, these guys backing him, these guys also don't deserve a show, and they don't deserve to maintain their license because they're pretty much encouraging people to go see a psychic for medical advice. This right here really makes me mad. I do not like to see this kind of stuff.
So I want to ask you, how does what you do work? How do you connect?
For me, really in a reading, I just communicate what I see, what I hear, and what I feel. And it's as simple as that. What I do isn't like the Sixth Sense. I don't see dead people walking around when I'm sitting and looking at an audience of people. I just basically sit with the person, I scribble, and I have to be aware of the impressions that I'm picking up on. And that could be a vision, it could be a voice, it could be a physical sensation that corresponds with how someone passed.
And the story of how he does this changes over the time of his career. At the beginning of his career, he said that he couldn't hear anything. He just received images only. And eventually he refines it. And then he just repeats the same thing over and over again, like a practice script.
This all started for me at the age of 10 years old, and I grew up in a very conservative household. And one night I just woke up and knew without a doubt that my grandmother was going to pass away. When I was 18 years old, I had a headache. And initially, I woke up one day and didn't think much of it. I went throughout my entire day, was gardening, and noticed that the headache started getting progressively worse. I thought, this could be an allergy headache, could be anything. And then I went to my mom after a few days of this not subsiding, and I said, Mom, I think my brain is swelling, and I want you to believe me. Shortly thereafter, I was hospitalized with hydrocephalus due to an arachnoid brain cyst that had basically caused the pressure in my brain to really increase, and the cerebral spinal fluid wasn't able to go through. So I was put into emergency brain surgery, which I thankfully recovered from really quickly, and it went from there.
And so do you get these senses or intuitions about other people as well?
Absolutely. It's actually something I touch on in the book, something you see in the show as I do these readings. I never want to scare anyone. I always encourage people to go to a doctor. Doctor knows best in this case. But I also think that people have to go with their intuition. I think oftentimes people know something is wrong with them before they ever even go to a doctor, and that's important.
That's a good point.
Tell people basically what I feel they intuitively have a susceptibility to, and give them that information in the hopes that if this is something that they do develop, if they show symptoms, that they'll go to their doctor and get medical advice and be able to say, hey, this is something that someone told me I might have a susceptibility to, and they can get that resolved before it becomes a problem.
And there really is some real life applicability to this. We have our own intuition when we're not doing well, we're not feeling well.
And also, just reminded with his brain tumor thing that he had, I guess, because he tries to sell it as something psychic that he knew. He was born with this. This was something that they were already keeping an eye on. Like, he already knew that he had this in his brain growing up. It's something that doesn't always develop into a problem. So if he was having head pains and things like that, it's probably things that he's been told his whole life to keep an eye out for. And if he starts having it, to go to the doctors. I do believe that you should trust your own body and be your own advocate. But don't let a psychic tell you what's wrong with you. Psychic brain scans. Okay, now we're going to talk about this QEEG. This is the brain scan that he had done that, whatever, they say like, oh, it proves that he's psychic. Well, QEEG is a bit of a pseudoscience. It doesn't necessarily prove anything. So an EEG is an electroencephalogram, and it is a test that measures the electrical activity in the brain. You will usually see this most often as little electrodes attached to the head. Sometimes, rarely, you'll see it done through a cap, but I get this done myself because they're always testing me for MS. I'm on like the MS watch list or whatever. So I get this done a lot. And they attach the electrodes straight into your scalp. And then they do a bunch of tests. The electrical machine, it measures the electrical circuits and currents and so forth. And then there's an fMRI, which is a functional MRI. And that is a type of MRI scan that can show which area of the brains are most active when you're doing something. So it kind of maps out the brain. So most often you'll see a lot of scientific studies refer back to fMRIs and EEGs. So what about this QEEG? A QEEG is a quantitative EEG. And what it essentially does, it sort of works like an EEG in the sense that it has electrodes and it maps the brain and so forth. But then the quantitative part of it uses computer models to sort of fill in the blanks, also predict different things like that. You're not necessarily getting direct, like this directly happened in your brain. This is like, well, these signals went off, therefore these other ones most likely also went off. So we're going to print a report showing that this is what your brain looks like based on these few signals that went off. An EEG and an fMRI are accepted by the scientific community, but there's ongoing debate over the use of qEEGs. The whole field is really awaiting validation by independent investigators, and clinical studies need to be done. Proper clinical studies are also needed because those are not being done. So until this is proven and accepted by the entire scientific community, this is a new pseudoscience that needs to be cautiously viewed and cautiously used by skilled neurophysiologists. It's mainly used to improve the analysis of background activity, slow, fast focal activity, subtle asymmetries, spikes and waves, as well as longitudinal follow-ups. I know that this is a little bit heavy to digest, this kind of material here, but I'm just trying to explain to you the problems with using qEEGs. qEEGs, especially in the hands of untrained operators, it's all based on statistical stuff, and it can be influenced by a wrong placement of an electrode, artifact contamination, improperly filtering different bands, drowsiness of the subject, using incorrect comparisons and using incorrect control data, lots of different things. It's all statistical. It's all statistical mathematics in the back end. And it's very easy to have an abnormality based on a human error. As well, EEGs and qEEGs don't actually provide any information about cognitive function on an individual level. It's pretty good for defining physiological issues, but it's a terrible tool for quantifying what the mind might be. It's not good for finding out these metaphysical answers. There are lots of different studies out there that are disregarding the qEEG, and a lot of scientists don't agree with the methodology. The best that they agree with is that qEEG is a way to, it can be a good tool to improve clinical diagnosis and treatment response. So let's say you have a brain injury or something going on, and they map your brain with qEEG. Then they get you to start doing therapies and stuff to help like retrain your brain, things of that nature. They can keep then doing qEEG pictures to see the effectiveness of the treatment going on, and they can see change over time with that. But that so far is the only thing that the majority of scientists can agree on, is that it's only good to map ongoing treatments and therapies to see whether they're having any effect on the brain. So we see things like Teresa Caputo and Tyler Henry go for these qEEG brain scans, and it's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick for Hollywood. The only people that I found that are actually doing proper brain scans to test psychic abilities, the University of Virginia, they're actually doing it with fMRIs and EEGs and a very controlled lab that is shielded from tons of stuff. If you're at all interested in understanding the right way to test psychic abilities in a lab environment, go and check them out. It's UVA Division of Perceptual Studies on YouTube. I will link them as well. Here's a screenshot as well of their video. When you're looking at these qEEG stuff on like Hollywood TV shows and different things like that, just remember it's a pseudoscience, and it's not really showing anything other than it can show like if someone has anxiety or stress, which if you look at Tyler Henry's brain scan episode, that's probably what it was. It can also show someone going into a meditative state, which he says he does. I just wanted to include this as a section in this video because I know comments are going to be in my video saying, well, he went for a brain scan and it proved he was psychic. No, it proved that his brain was reacting differently when he was doing a reading. What do the skeptics have to say? All right, now for this section here, first off, let's start off with something that Tyler says, that he'd be willing to be tested by skeptics and scientists.
Tyler says he would be willing to have his abilities tested under the right circumstances. Would you ever do like a controlled validation test to like prove your abilities to some skeptics out there?
You know, I think skepticism is an important thing, and I think that I would love to be able to go and undergo testing to some extent to be able to figure out the span of what this is. Oh, I see. Ew, that's a tough one. Let me think on that one. Because it's hard to know necessarily what would be controlled. Like, yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to establish like what would be a controlled setting because that's up to scientists, not really me.
So we reached out to the independent investigations group who said they would be more than happy to help.
We have people who are experts in the field of psychology and other areas that pertain to assessing whether someone actually has this ability. We would work with them to design a test that's fair and gives him an opportunity to demonstrate his ability.
We extended this offer to Tyler Henry, but his team has not responded to multiple requests for comment.
Okay, and that was a clip from the outline. We have yet another person claiming ability to talk to the dead who will not take the test. And this is the same test that Kenny Biddle reminded Cody and Satori of just last week, was it? 2 weeks ago? Whenever that video was out? A couple weeks ago. The more that I work through the stuff in this video, I do feel like he knows that he's not psychic. He's refusing to get tested. He's dodging their calls for it. You caught him in a lie with the Corey situation. I'm sure there's other ones that we could come up with too. It's thing after thing, right? That's my personal opinion. All right. This is what I am feeling like when I'm starting to work through these videos and pull in more and more of my research and tying it together for you guys. Just some things start to become a little bit more clear. And I feel like this is feeling like a grift to me. So up next, we have the interview with Susan Gerbic, and she is from the Skeptical Inquirer, and she has written tons of articles on fake psychics and mediums. She's also done actual sting operations of different psychics and mediums. This interview is heavily edited as Susan and I were talking for about 2 hours. So to save time in this video, I just cut down the interview to some key important parts that I thought you all would enjoy.
My name is Susan Gerbic. I live in Salinas, California. I am a skeptical junkie because I have been involved in the community for about, a little over 20 years. And over time, I have developed a niche of being interested in psychic mediumship. My channel is called Psychics Explained, and I get into the real weeds of the details of the readings. I take a reading and I go into extreme detail of what is going on, and then I have kind of a community so people are able to participate and give me comments, things I don't see, they see. And I publish for Skeptical Inquirer, and I've been publishing for Skeptical Inquirer for a few years now. I'm a fellow for the Center for Inquiry, which is the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, and I also received at least 2 awards from the James Randi Educational Foundation. James Randi.
Yeah. Oh, also, and Susan knew James Randi too.
Oh, yeah, I knew him well.
As well. Yeah.
Mark and I did. In fact, Randy wrote the foreword to Mark's book, Psychic Blues.
Oh, really? Oh,
we knew him very well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sad when he died, and I miss him all the time.
It's sad. It feels like there's still a hole, like someone hasn't really filled on.
Somebody's got to step
people.
in. I don't think anybody's going to step in. I think it's going to take a whole crew of people to step into the shoes.
I think we're at that point because even there's some good mentalists out there that I really do appreciate the debunking and stuff they do, but you can tell they've got an ego on them that they don't want to risk their money to take a chance to stand up to people. I've noticed.
Right.
They'll do a little bit of it, but they don't want to push it too far. They don't want to hop on Larry King Live like James used to do. But I think it's going to take other people this time now and not just mentalists and magicians. So.
Well, I'd like to see women, and I want to see more do this because I think this is a crime on women.
Also, for my audience watching, someone in my comments mentioned you and mentioned that you were talking that you would like to see more women in the debunking community.
I wonder who that was.
And if you're watching, because my mind, so I have fibromyalgia, my memory is half the time I'm I don't even know. It's I remember specific things that are kind of not really important, but then I forget the really good things that I should be remembering. So anyway, I've forgotten their name because if I don't write it down, I will forget. So if you're watching this, leave a comment so I can remember.
Hi, whoever it was. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it because I'm enjoying doing a talk here for Floor. Yeah, this is great. I work a lot with the community of Center for Inquiry, and there are other people around who do this kind of work that I do. But Kenny Biddle is the lead investigator for the Committee for Skeptical Inquirer, and he is doing an amazing job. He's only been doing this for a few years, and people really should check out Kenny Biddle. Plus, there's a lot of other people in other areas. There's an Australian equivalent to me in some ways, Richard Saunders. I'm spread pretty thin. I run a really powerful
official Wikipedia project that is teaching people how to edit Wikipedia pages. And we focus on science and scientific skepticism and claims of the paranormal.
Yeah, your Wikipedia project, it's huge. Like, for those who don't
Mhm.
realize, when you go to Wikipedia now, when you see like controversies or things like that under someone's profile, like they're the ones pretty much responsible for making sure that stuff goes
Right.
there.
My team is over 100 people. We've written a little over 2,000 Wikipedia articles now, and we focus on almost half of what we do is in languages outside of English. And I'm the only team that I know of that trains. So we train and mentor our people, and you can join, you have to contact me, but it's extensive. It takes months to learn to be one of my editors. About in 2013, I started putting together different stings to catch mediums doing things. So we try to use science, double blinding our stings. So it was no way possible that they could be doing it by chance, various different mechanisms. And in 2017, we did a sting that we called Operation Pizza Roll. And that caught the attention of somebody who writes for the New York Times. And they needed to see me do a sting before that they would publish it for New York Times. So they watched me do a sting that we call Operation Peach Pit, and that was with Matt Frazier. And that was a sting that we did with somebody in the East Coast, and they went through the protocols that I had done for Operation Pizza Roll, which was Thomas John, the seatbelt psychic. Pizza Roll, we caught him hot reading. We set up fake Facebook pages.
Was that you guys? Because I saw a video like where you guys set up fake Facebook pages and you're talking about cardiac problems and a dog that died. And
yes,
okay,
that was
okay.
So that was Operation Pizza Roll. And then, as I said, the New York Times wanted to actually send a reporter to watch. I mean, every detail. Watch me talk to the team members. Watch me plan. Watch how we created the Facebook pages. Everything. They watched our whole team do it. And then the reporter, whose name is Arquette, he went to the Matt Frazier show with the people who are going to be doing the sting, and he reported on it. So that made the New York Times, I think in 2018. It was in the magazine, which was a huge deal. So all of our stings are Operation something something, usually food related.
Yeah.
And my partner and I did these together, and my partner was Mark Edward, who is a mentalist who wrote a book called Psychic Blues, Confessions of a Conflicted Medium. And he was, because he died in August, just a few months ago. And Mark was he worked for the Psychic Friends Network for years. He was one of their top psychics. Yeah, he was one of their top psychics, and he did infomercials. Was also a mentalist at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, which is very prestigious. And all the time that he was working as a psychic, he was also on the board of Skeptic magazine. So what he was doing is he was getting the information on what's going on in the psychic world, and then he wrote a book on it called Psychic Blues. And I met him in 2009. I would already had an interest in psychic mediums. I'm more of a planner, and he was more of a doer. We've done a lot of different things. I'm more interested now details of psychic mediums, what's actually going on, because people say that they're convinced, they believe, oh, well, he told me this thing. And then when you look at the transcripts or you listen to the audio, that's not what he said. He said something slightly like that, but that's not what he said.
That's
I'm very interested
misremembering.
in mediumship, and I'm very interested in the last year, I guess, I've been really interested in the mom and pop kind of psychics, the ones who are doing readings over Zoom. They think they're speaking to fellow believers, and so they're more likely to give advice, medical, financial, legal advice, which is really, really bad, because these people are being manipulated. And they're almost all women. They're almost all in grief or alone. And so it's been really interesting to watch. And I'm also very immersed in the mentalist world. So since I'm kind of in the magic mentalist world, so I can see the tricks. You're watching it with a group of people, and they're all crying and believing it. And I'm going, I just saw what you did right there, dude. I mean, it's so obvious to me, but to other people, they're being manipulated, and it's very hard. They're mostly women in grief, lonely, and they don't know any better.
Like, they don't have respect for their clients at all. No.
It takes a certain kind of narcissism, I think, to be able to do a lot of this. Not all of the mediums are narcissistic or anything of that sort. There's a lot of them that are genuinely think that they're helping people. And I have a line where I believe that a lot of them, they really do think that they have powers. They don't test themselves. They don't know anything about cold reading, hot reading. That's not even phrases they even know. they've bought into it. They bought workshops, they bought the books, they have the mentoring, and now they are doing this gig. And what happens is their sitters who are very motivated to have a really good reading, they give them so much feedback about how amazing their reading was that they start to believe their own, their own reading. So they tend to convince themselves that they're actually psychics. So in a lot of ways, some of these lower level mediums are actually being preyed upon as well. It's the higher level. Yeah, the higher ones like Sylvia Brown, Thomas John, Tyler Henry, Matt Fraser, they know damn well what they're doing. And we know that. Teresa Caputo, all of those. They're different kinds of worlds, more or less.
Yeah, no, they get charged thousands of dollars for all these workshops and stuff. They're taught to repeat Barnum statements and the Rainbow Ruse stuff, and then they convince themselves that they're psychic because of that, right? So
yeah, and you get some feedback telling people how amazing you are. You're convinced.
You guys said that you coined the term grief vampire, right?
Mark did, yeah. Mark came up with the term grief vampire.
I know, I get a lot of comments on my videos too. People like, "Oh, what harm is it doing people if it makes them feel better?" And it's like, but
oh my gosh,
you obviously
I
have
hear that all
lost.
the time too. Let me get you a list out of how dangerous it is to lie to people who are grieving. Yeah, absolutely. There is lying to somebody about an important time of their life, recreating memories of a person that you have. If you have a memory of somebody, you're holding on to that memory, and then our memory doesn't work like a VHS or a DVD or a YouTube video where you put it in, you hit play, and then you can go backwards and hit play, and it's always the same. Our memory doesn't work that way. When you play a memory and then you're living in that memory, and then you rewrite it with some new memory, well, then that feels real to people. So what these people are doing is, in essence, is rewriting people's memories for them. Not only the health, the legal, and the financial things they're doing for them. It's absolutely dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, and it's a gateway to them to start doing those medical readings and things like that too. Because I was doing a little bit of research on Tyler Henry, and I found some stuff where apparently he was doing medical readings on people too, or he has been. I don't know if he's still doing it, but that starts getting really dangerous.
Well, it's also an absence of medical readings. Tyler Henry's Live from the Other Side, the third show in his episode, he asks her about cancer, and he says something about, where is it here? He says that women, some kind of cancer in some kind of in your lower areas, like ovarian or colon, something like that, cervical.
Colon,
yeah. So he tells her, he says, now you have a sister. He says this to a woman. He says, and you have a sister, right? They already established she had a sister. And she's like, yeah. And he goes, well, I think you need to talk to her about cancer in those areas and to keep that in mind, and that she should have that kind of stuff checked out. So now that seems all fine and well and good. But what ends up happening is, if you're the sitter and you really believe in this, I mean, you believe that, maybe you'll go down and get your cancers, all that, the lower part of your body checked out. But what they might do is they will say, I could put off my mammogram this year because he didn't see anything in the breast area. Or I've got this cough that's really been bothering me, and sometimes I do cough up some blood, but he didn't see anything in the lung area. He saw something down lower. So I'll put that off. Maybe I'll wait until after Christmas. What happens is it's just an absence of medical. That's my point, is that you think that he's telling you to go to the doctor and he's telling you to get these tests done. But in your mind, if you believe, you're saying, I guess I'm okay. I'm not going to get my prostate checked because he told me to get my heart checked.
I guess because I'm in Canada, I didn't really think about that. That would be more prevalent in the US, where you have to pay for your tests and your health care, right? So people would be picking and choosing.
It's in the insurance.
There's so many psychics. Is like, people are always like, did you watch this person? Have you watched this person? Like, they ask me in the comments. I'm like, you know how many fake psychics there are? Like, I don't watch them all. I'm sorry, but.
And they're all, it's like, okay, I'm watching the psychic somebody recommends, and you're like, well, how is this different from the last one I went? They're really all kind of the same. I mean, they have their things, yeah. But if you see a Sylvia Brown, you've seen a John Edward, they're kind of the same. Tyler Henry is different from Sylvia Brown in a lot of ways. He's a new generation. My boyfriend called Tyler Henry fuzzy sweater psychic, which means like the boy next door, the sweetness and
Oh, yeah.
sugar, and the kind of guy who would pack your groceries and walk your dog for you. It's like there's nuance to it over time. But Tyler Henry, there's a whole bunch of others that are very like a Tyler Henry. It's just
Yeah, so I was gonna do a just a video on like the TikTok psychics, like the social media psychics. And I think Tyler Henry kind of falls in with that, except he got a whatever TV deal,
hard deal when he was 19.
Yeah, but it's like he fits the same image as these like hip new young psychics or whatever, right? And then just like I told you, I'm just nicknaming them fast food psychics on the TikTok. They'll message you and they'll be like, "I'll do a reading for $5." I'm like, "Yeah, this is fast food psychic readings."
I never thought of that before. I really like that term. I'm going to start using it. Did you come up with that?
Yeah, you could use it.
Yeah, I will credit you that because I love that fast food psychic. I don't really deal with those too much, because I want somebody who has a history. And a lot of them, those TikTok type, they're just throwing up a video and they're just winging it. And they get better at it.
It's funny, yeah. When you look into them, like you go back into their account and they didn't talk about psychic stuff. They you can see that they've tried different angles to become TikTok famous, right? And it's just like they all have done it. And it's so funny. It's like they're all just trying whatever they can try. I like the one guy offer for like $1,000 like medium award or whatever, if they can like
Justin Dean.
Yeah.
Justin Dean. Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, and he's on TikTok, and he was doing that award too, right? And there's a iffy TikTok psychic. I'll probably actually feature her on the thing. So that's a different video
because I do not have patience. There's too many of them, and they're every day.
That's why I'm gonna do like it's a compilation. That's the thing. Everyone wants me to do like a separate video on all these people. I'm like, listen, it gets boring after a while because they're all just doing the same thing. So I'm gonna throw them all together into like a compilation kind of deal. Maybe we focus on one person, but it like ties into all of them, right? Tyler Henry, I think, is a different story, which is where I'm going with the angle with this video.
Than Teresa Caputo, or than the TikTok
just
people?
In general, like Tyler Henry, like I find it fascinating that he's clearly hot reading and everyone believes him. Like why? Like,
well, not everybody believes.
That's actually one of my questions too. I know we've talked about it a little bit as well in chat. You're in California, so you see things like I don't normally see, but you said that you've seen before, like in newspapers where they're hiring for actors to play psychics and things. So like there's a chance that some of these people might just be being sort of hired for this role and taught and groomed into it, and they're fake from the beginning. Just someone like their charisma or whatever and hires them to be this psychic, right? And like with Tyler Henry, you were saying like he's got this like boy next door kind of look, right? Yeah. That's different. Yeah.
Right now, and I couldn't find the when I was talking to you about Tyler Henry, I couldn't find it, so I can't verify this completely. But I do know what I've been told is that Tyler Henry, they were looking for a teenager. They wanted the teenage medium, the Hollywood teenager kind of medium kind of thing. And so they were looking around for somebody, and they found Tyler Henry, and he was working in a smallish city at a new age shopper who's doing readings. He wanted to do hospice, and he's a very caring kind of person. He seems to be. He wanted to do hospice, and he wanted to deal with reaching out to people who had unalived themselves. On YouTube. They found him, and it's always been my opinion, and Mark's opinion is that they recruited him because he didn't have any baggage, nothing to haunt him. Get it? Yeah. There was nothing in the past. He's brand new, so they kind of created him. And if you watch him, I think of him as like a one guy boy band, where he uses a lot of different methods from a lot of different mediums, the psychometry, the automatic writing. And oh my gosh, just the other day I watched him do a mentalism trick. I thought I was going to just die.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
what did you do? Which one?
It was this live from the other side thing. He asked, I couldn't even believe it. He asked the person on the couch, there's 5 people on the couch, if they had a D name, and like David. Somebody goes, yeah, we have a David. Duh. And so he goes, wait a minute. And he goes and gets in his pocket, and he pulls out a paper, and he unfolds it, and he had written the word David on. He goes, see?
Really?
And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
I said, OMG, you got to be kidding me. He's the one who planted the word David to these people, and he wrote David on a piece of paper, put it in his pocket, and he pulled it out at the right time. And then later on, I couldn't believe it. It's so such a bad mentalism effect. And then later on in the reading, he's doing something with he finally gets this woman to say who her brother was. And she says his name is Gary. And he goes, "Oh, Gary!" And he gets all excited. And I thought, oh, I bet he's got a piece of paper folded up in his shoe. And he's gonna pull it out. He's gonna open it up. It's gonna say Gary on it, and then he's kind of like, "Oh, Gary." And I'm thinking, you should have wrote Gary down, put it in your other pocket, or you should have put, because it was just like, oh. So that's what I mean about Tyler Henry. He's not. He pulls from here and then there and then there and here, and he's like made up. He's like somebody either trained him to do this, they groomed him to do this and trained him, or he's taken it on himself. Like, okay, let me watch how so-and-so is doing readings. Oh, okay, I'll take that, It's just, it's so obvious. And you have to watch a lot of videos, a lot of readings.
You can learn like how to be this fake psychics, where like even just on YouTube, there's like people training you how to do it. I love the ghost hunting community and paranormal investigation. People are doing stuff from the Victorian era seance times, and they're trying to say it's real testing for real ghosts. Like they're doing table tipping again. I'm like,
serious.
It's not. That was a trick.
Are you serious?
Yeah. This is like the paranormal investigation community is really taking a nosedive.
I love seance. I adore it. I'm friends with the mentalist community. I go to a mentalist conference in Dallas, Texas every year. They do seance. That's their thing. My house has got seance stuff all over it because of Mark Edward. That was his thing, and I love all that stuff, but it's an act.
Yeah, it should not be taken as a serious thing.
It's like drag, it's an art form. It's beautiful. It's neat. If it's done well, but table tipping. I mean, what are they going to swallow cheesecloth next and let it and then vomit it up like they?
God. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they do that soon too.
I have no hope. Some days I get up in the morning. I think, why am I doing this? I've spent hours doing these things and investigating, and then I get like 10 hits, and then some psychic comes and does something and they get thousands of hits, and you're like,
it's like, it's important for us to keep doing it, even though like I know it's a lot of work. For every piece of incorrect information out there, we need to write a piece of correct information, otherwise our libraries are going to be filled with lies. So yeah, it's work that seems like it goes unappreciated, but it's necessary to fight off the evil of misinformation, unfortunately.
I just don't think I could not fight in some way. That's how I feel. I have to do something, even if it's just a little this. But I don't have people convert. People will tell me, I understand what that psychic is doing now. And then they say, show me another psychic, what's the good one? Which one's really talking to the dead? And you're like, none of them are.
I get asked that too, and it's like, well, I'm gonna be kind of giving my thoughts on like psychics and stuff in my Q&A video at the end of December. This will come out in the new year though, our discussion with Tyler Henry. But it's like, I am still a believer. I know you're not completely, but the thing is, we can talk and still get along. But it's like we can talk, we can still get along, we can talk about things, like it's fine. But then it's like, if I try to sit down and talk to a full-blown believer who doesn't want to listen, it's like we can't even have a conversation. It's like, we can, the people that are skeptical are still okay to talk to people that have a bit of belief. They try to act like we try to push them out of every conversation, but they're the ones that push us out. Like we're willing to talk to one another, and we're fine to talk to each other, It's just they tend to be the more aggressive side. I've noticed, right? Especially the paranormal community on YouTube too. They're very aggressive. the believers.
I don't think you can fix any of the problems we're having now with my videos and so on. All I can do is, the way I see myself, as a pre-bunker. I'm giving them an inoculation against it, so that when you are in a point where you feel like you might be going down that path, where you have a death in your family, you're in grief, you're lonely, or whatever it is, and this is enticing to you, then you might start seeing the warning signs, and you can say, oh, wait a minute, I think I saw a video on this. Some years ago, I saw this woman, and she was talking about this, and this kind of sounds like the same thing. It's like a romance scam. The same thing. If you kind of give them a little bit, that there are people out there who are pretending to be somebody else and they're not, and you give them a little bit, then maybe they will see the warning signs, the red flags, and back off. And that's how I look at myself.
My big thing is like, you guys are sinking your money into these people and they're not being truthful with you. Like, and there's some people I talk to too in the comments and like, oh, my mom gave her whole life savings to this psychic at the end.
Right.
And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that happens. Like, you can say, oh, there's nothing wrong with people getting a little bit of relief from grief. They don't, though. These people milk them of all their money. Like, they're not just after giving someone one moment or something. If you'll come back and give them money, they'll gladly have you back until you have no money left.
I've talked to some grief therapists, and I don't know about these fast food psychics, but the mom and pops kind, they want to build a relationship with you. And so what they do is they want people to remain stuck in their grief. So they don't want you to move on. They might slightly suggest that you can, but it's almost like, you know, throwing a bone to somebody like, oh yeah, you're going to find another man in your life, whatever. But whatever you do, your husband's right there watching you, and he likes how the color of the house. He likes that you have the setup that way. He's watching you. He's having ice cream with you. You know, whenever that song is playing, he's there dancing with you. You know, it's a feeling that this patriarchal, the spirit is always there watching you. The dead person's always watching you, and so it's very difficult to move on with your life. You know, don't sell his guitar.
Yeah.
Don't take the shoes out from underneath the bed. Don't, you know, these things, because they don't say don't sell his guitar. They say your husband is telling me that he likes that you have the guitar right there where he can see it and honor him. So the way they say it. So in other words, don't move that guitar. Don't remove his hat. Don't get rid of his clothes, because he likes that. So it's hard to move on with your life. Yet if you're seeing an actual licensed grief counselor, they're going to give you ways of
like
dealing
working through it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can work through it, because grief is a part of life. They teach you how to do this kind of stuff. A lot of the psychic mediums that I'm dealing with, they don't want you to move past, because then you're going to go on and have a happy life. You're not going to see them anymore.
Yeah.
Some think they're helping. Some might actually do some sort of help.
Yeah, there's some that, like, you know, do believe they're psychic, and there's some that are trying to help, and those usually are the ones that aren't going to have a TV show, right? The ones
exactly. Yeah.
The ones that have a TV show have no soul. So
I've seen some psychics that aren't, you know, they don't charge a lot or whatever, but they're getting payment in another way. I think some of these mediums enjoy the ability to tell people what to do, to govern the other women's lives, to you know, come in as an authority. So it's not about money to some psychics. It is about power over others. You know, maybe their kids.
And that's saying they don't seek out the article or the video or anything to explain it, because they want it to be true, because they're in a bad spot in their life. And that's I do get comments like that. Maybe there's people like, oh, they're so dumb. It's like, they're not dumb. They're in a bad spot. And until until you've experienced grief and real crisis in your life, which I can tell you haven't based on your comment, like, you're just not going to understand and be able to sympathize with it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the people that just call them dumb, just like, I'm like, you haven't experienced real strife. Like, when you've experienced real strife, then that's when you look at these fake psychics too, as someone who has experienced it, and you're like, these people are taking advantage of these poor people at their like worst moments, you know?
Right. It's very sad, you know. That is exactly what's going on. And it's for people who tell me what's the harm, it's very harmful. And I find it very manipulative and cruel. I think it's cruel. You know, your heart goes out to these people. You know, if you have a missing child, or something happens in your family, some kind of thing, the mediums come out of the woodwork to prey on you.
And that's the thing people don't realize. It happens, all the time. Yeah.
And they're meaning, because these people become obsessed. A lot of them have some of these mediums have obsessive compulsive issues, where they start following the case, and they pick up all the media on it, and they feel like, then they go and they dream about it. And they have a dream, and then they see, oh, I'm seeing the number 7, and I'm seeing some water, and I'm seeing a red car. And so they absolutely believe that they are helping by telling somebody, I see a red car, the number 7, and some water. And they following the case religiously. There's nothing you can say to these poor people to tell them you're wasting police time.
All right. Also, before I forget too, do you want to just like plug anything that you want to send people to? I know you have your project, your website, all that sort of stuff.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. So you can find out more information about who I am and what I do. I have a nonprofit called abouttimeproject.org. You can find that website. I have a lot of information on there, not only the world of psychics, but also other things, other projects I do. You can find me on all the articles I've written for Skeptical Inquirer on Skeptical Inquirer's website, which is skepticalinquirer.org, and just search for Susan Gerbic. You can find my YouTube channel, which is Psychics Explained, and that's on YouTube. Please subscribe. I would love to have your followers come in and check me out too, because if they're really interested in the world of the psychic in detail, not an overview of a psychic, but the details of mediumship. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm very approachable. Please friend me on Facebook. You can send me a private message. I'm happy to answer questions or to whatever you have information about. And you can write to me at my email is susangerbic@yahoo.com or gmail.com. There's a lot of ways of getting a hold of me. I'm on Blue Sky, Twitter, Xer, or whatever they're calling it. Reds. I'm all over the place, TikTok. But my team is called Guerrilla Skeptics, and the world of the people who work on the different stings I do, they're called Guerrilla Skeptics. But my Wikipedia project, Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. Put Susan Gerbic into your search engine.
Anything, yeah, you'll find. That's how I found her. And also, I did read your article too a while back. You're looking for like scientific professionals who want to help with the Wikipedia project as well. So if any you know anyone or are one who want to help out.
Yeah, we are looking for people to train who have a scientific. Well, I'm looking to train anybody, but if you have a scientific background, please, and you want to do training, because we need to get those Wikipedia pages on like the hard sciences in great shape. And I don't know anything about fungi or
yeah.
to write Wikipedia pages on hard science articles if you don't have a good background on it.
And anyone, if any want to offer even just writing skills or whatever, she just needs extra hands. As well, if you go check out her YouTube, she likes it. If you like point out stuff you notice as well that she missed, she likes to have like a collaborative effort where she goes over like an episode of something, review it together and stuff. So check out Susan as well for that too.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for letting me be on your show and all your fans for my YouTube channel. Subscribe.
Yes, make sure go over and subscribe to Susan.
I'd appreciate
that. Yeah, thank you for coming on as well.
All right, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too. Bye. I am on the fence. I can't decide whether Tyler has just convinced himself of these things, that he's really this good, or if he's knowing. Because of the detail of the hot reading stuff that he pulls, and we catch him like incorrectly with the Corey situation, I think that he knowingly goes in with research that he's done. So I think that he knows he's not psychic. So the biggest thing that I just want everyone to remember is mediums, they only know what we tell them. Whether they're grabbing it off social media, doing some research ahead of time, or, using cold and warm techniques to pull it from us while we're sitting down talking to them. It's really important to go into this stuff with critical thinking. If it's so easily proven, and if they're really talking to the dead, then we would see like science all up in there. Like, it's just, if they actually could do it too, they would take up even the new $500,000 award as well for proving that you're psychic. If you have family or loved ones who are getting scammed by a psychic, please try to get them out of it. A lot of these psychics will milk them for all they have. They don't care. These people don't have the proper empathy, and they don't have a conscience. It's horrible. Also, just to end off this video, don't forget, I am doing a fundraiser for the LA fires. I am aware that Tyler's home is, in Topanga, which is in the fire borders, but I haven't heard of anything, and he's been, selling readings through Zoom or whatever the whole time. He's been on social media offering readings, and people come pay for my readings and pay for my monthly membership. So whatever, he seems to be fine. So I'm going to release this video because we have no idea how long these fires are going to be, and I apologize if that offends anyone, but I have been fundraising for the fires this whole time, and honestly, Tyler, if anything happens to him, he can afford it. He has made enough money off the grief of other people. He can afford a new house, to be honest. Anyway, sorry if my anger right there made me sound a little bit insincere. I just don't like people that are ripping off people that are grieving. I apologize if I get a little bit heated about it. I'd like to thank my members and patrons. As a reminder too, for anyone, if you join membership on YouTube, what happens is you get 24 hours ad-free viewing of each episode, and then it goes up into the premiere where it's public to everyone. As well, if I do any recording sessions with my friends, KK and everyone in group recording, we'll do them live and you can watch them as well and join in the chat too. But that's all I got for you guys today. Have a good rest of your evening. I appreciate you. Don't worry about what to watch next because I have linked a video, or if you want to sit and watch things for a little bit longer, a whole playlist on the side here. Go ahead and click those now to keep watching.